Okay, so let's learn from my mistake. Because I put negative 64 divided by x in the calculator instead of the positive 64 divided by x, the table of values was no good. So I'm going to go back to the table of values, and I'll keep the negative 24 to 24. Okay. I mean, you could go from negative 64 to 64. I just knew that I didn't need to go that far and get so many numbers. So scrolling now, I realized that in order for the two numbers to multiply to a positive 64, they would have to either both be negative or both be positive. So here, negative 16 times negative 4 that I see in the table, that would multiply to positive 64, but it would add to negative 20. So that's not my pair of numbers. Scrolling down, getting my next pair of integers, negative 8, and negative 8 multiplies to positive 64, and will also add to negative 16. So I could stop right there and put them in. Okay, if it didn't, I would keep scrolling. I see negative 4 and negative 16 again, negative 2, negative 32, 1 times 64, 2 times 32. So skip over the pairs of numbers where there's decimals. So if you notice here, the two factors are equivalent. So sometimes, like in a multiple choice test, they might write it just once, like this, x minus 8, and say squared instead of writing the factor out twice. So you can only do that when the factors are exactly the same. Okay, this last example is just different wording asking for the exact same thing. In the equation, and they write down this polynomial x squared minus x minus 56 is equal to this factored form. So they set it up that the x's are going to be first in both parentheses. And they're letting you know that b is an integer. Find algebraically all the possibilities of b. So this is a factoring question. You just need to factor the same way we were doing. So getting my two factors, knowing that the first two terms are going to be x. What are the numbers going to add to? There's just a minus sign in front of the x, but you should know that that's like a negative 1. We want two numbers that add to negative 1 and multiply to negative 56. So by the way, if there was a plus sign in front of that x, it would be positive 1. So now we need all the numbers that multiply to negative 56. So in the calculator, I'll put negative 56 divided by x to get all the factors. And if this time I do it correct, I won't have to delete out. Negative 56 divided by x, okay? And again, I could go to the table. I should be okay. Still going from just the negative 24 to 24. That's like as far as you'd need to go. Scrolling, I see negative 14 and 4. Negative 14 and 4 in the table of values. That is not going to add to negative 1. It adds to negative 10. Scrolling down, negative 8 and 7 multiplies to negative 56. What's negative 8 plus 7? If you're not sure, go back in the calculator, put negative 8 plus 7. What do you get? Negative 1. That's our answer because we wanted it to add to negative 1. If it was a positive 1, we'd have to go back down to positive 8, negative 7. Those two numbers multiply to negative 56, but would add to positive 1. These two add to negative 1, which is what we wanted it. Okay, so what does this mean? Find algebraically all the possible values of b. B, they have as the second factor's number. So the way that we first wrote the answer, it would mean that 7 was the b. But is there another way we could write the answer? We could write the answer putting the x plus 7 first and the x minus 8 second. So this question tests that you understand that the factors could be written in either order. Now what number is in the place of the b? Negative 8. So the answer to this question, the final answer to this question, is 7 or negative 8. Both of those numbers could be in the b. Okay, I'm going to go to a fourth video.